there are primarily three steps that we need to understand. First thing is developing the advertisement. The second thing is executing it. And the third thing is evaluating it. Followed by the advertising budget, designing the advertising, choosing the medium, and scheduling the advertising altogether. We would also like to talk about selecting the right media. There are many different options when you go in terms of selecting the right kind of media. Good morning and welcome to the first session in Unit 3, 6th semester BBA Advertising and Media Management, where we're going to talk about advertising program. Now, when we talk about the word program itself, it's quite interesting and amazing to know about it. Why? Because you just are excited to tell people about a product that you know. Well, let's say that you have an amazing product with yourself, and that product could really bring a lot of transformation in the lives of people. So what do you exactly intend to do? What do you want to tell people about it? How do you want to go advertising about it? That is exactly where an advertising program comes into picture. Now, the steps what are actually involved in building up a comprehensive advertising plan, there are multiple steps, but then there are primarily three steps that we need to understand. First thing is developing the advertisement. The second thing is executing it. And the third thing is evaluating it. Now, as we go further, what are the steps that are we going to involve? First of all, let us identify the target audience, and we shall start moving about in terms of understanding the specific advertising objectives, followed by the advertising budget, designing the advertising, choosing the medium, and scheduling the advertising altogether. So now when we start talking about this as we go step by step, the first thing is that who is your audience that we are looking into? Not everybody is going to be interested in your product. So you need to identify the target audience, the people who are exactly interested to know about your product. And now you need to bring that specific objective, why you are trying to put that advertisement to that set of people. Followed by what is your budget to do this particular advertising project or the program, followed by the design of the advertisement. Then you start choosing the medium, and then you start scheduling the entire advertisement, which means to say that you have now got ready to build in the program. Now, the first thing as we are talking about, the demographics and the characteristics of the people will be very followed by the advertising budget, designing the advertising, choosing the medium, and scheduling the advertising altogether. So now when we start talking about this as we go step by step, the first thing is that who is your audience that we are looking into? Not everybody is going to be interested in your product. So you need to identify the target audience, the people who are exactly interested to know about your product. And now you need to bring that specific objective, why you are trying to put that advertisement to that set of people. Followed by what is your budget to do this particular advertising project or the program, followed by the design of the advertisement. Then you start choosing the medium, and then you start scheduling the entire advertisement, which means to say that you have now got ready to build in the program. Now, the first thing as we are talking about, the demographics and the characteristics of the people will be very important as what you are advertising and to whom you are advertising. Now, whenever you are advertising a product like hammam soap, probably the range of audience is from the smaller level, that might be even for a 5-year-old kid to probably a 50-year-old man. So what happens here is that the demographic scope is extremely large. So when you have a generalized product where the age range is quite higher, the demographics are quite on the higher side, then what you would be able to see here is that the audience will also have a larger scope altogether. So that is where you would be able to visualize and see that the images are quite big here. That means you have a wider area to reach, and there are a lot of people who would be trying to look into that particular product. So the decisions that you are going to make would also impact a larger section of people, and that is not something going to be in a minuscule amount. So that's where I would like to say that the ideal customer range always needs to be decided before we start launching the project. Specifying the advertising objectives. So one thing that is very, very important is the awareness part, the interest, the evaluation, trial adoption method, which is very, very important these days. And you will be able to select a media from evaluating a campaign altogether. So you need to understand that whenever we are talking about this media, you need to understand what kind of awareness that you want to drive into the minds of people. So first thing is that when you start bringing up a trial-based advertisement, you need to see, is the awareness about your product able to reach that hundreds and thousands of people whom you have thought in your mind. Why? Because when you're adopting an idea that is going to drive that business. Now let's go back to the hammam soap itself. I would like to say hammam soap was created for a general purpose. Now hammam soap is not any supernatural product, or it is not a luxury brand, or neither it is something very, very specific or to a niche category. Hammam soap was bought in for the general public at an affordable price, at an affordable range, so that everybody can get benefited by using that. Now what happens here is that the aim of hammam was to reach the media as far as possible. Hammam was not a soap that wanted to say that by using my soap you're going to get transformed into some model or into some beautiful personality altogether. But the aim of hammam soap was only to deliver good health, good skin and a good outlook altogether. So now when you are looking into a general awareness, an awareness that needs to reach those millions of people, then you might not probably look or think too much, because your message is quite simple enough. But then if you're looking to target a product like Johnson & Johnson baby products, that means the target segment becomes so niche that you need to exactly bring in that message, what is needed for the kids, what is needed for the moms, to cater to that segment. So now what happens is that the awareness, as I'm trying to getting into the objective part of it, has got certain meaning which is being evaluated again and again to see that whether your campaign is a success or not. The success of any campaign will be measured with the target audience in mind, with the evaluation of your objectives in mind. So whenever you are coming up with an advertisement, make yourself sure that you are able to generate interest, you are able to tell people what is this product used for, what is the beneficiary of the product, and how good the product can actually work in the real walk of life. And then people will get interested to buy the product, they will own the product, and automatically those loyal customers would also advocate about your products to others. Now what happens is setting the objective, and when we start getting into the budget, now this is a significant financial commitment and needs to be a part of the formalized budget. Now advertising budget, one may sound that it's all about throwing money into a particular product. Now people might say that by bringing in a brand ambassador, by bringing in those big screens or getting in those colorful ads, the taglines, the music, the color, the advertisement is going to work. But the answer is absolutely no. Why? Because it's not by the brand ambassador, it's not by the tagline, or it's not by the money that you sink into the advertisement. It is all about understanding what is exactly required for the advertisement to be successful. So when you decide about the budget, you need to be very careful about this fact that the budget does not overshoot the needs of the people. So that's very, very important here. At the second time, we also need to understand that we are doing a significant process building exercise so that we are able to tell people how exactly brands can be built. The third thing that we are going to look here is that when a significant financial commitment, that means this is going to be a recurring expense for you. So over a period of time, try to understand that you stick to the budget and do not overshoot on it again and again. Now, you might bring different versions of the same product. You might bring in with different colors, packaging, or you are trying to extend the versions of the product, but that doesn't mean that you have to spend too much of money trying to overshoot the financial budget. Stick to the budget, bring a common aim, and try to understand that it is reaching the minds of the people at any given point of time. Followed by which, designing the advertisement. This is one of the most interesting part that anybody would love to get inside. The reasons are quite simple. Why? Because we are going to identify and test the most important thing to the target market. Now, when you design an advertisement, it includes the words, it includes the person, the ideology, the message, the clarity, the communication, and the kind of response that's also going to be measured upon. Now, whenever we are designing an advertisement, the most important thing is that put yourself into the shoes of the customer and start understanding whether this product will be really beneficiary to me. Now, for example, let's take a beverage like Fruity or Maaza. These are kind of beverages that have been in the market for a very long time. The reason is quite simple. If you look into their innovative ad campaigns, they have been able to capture the minds of people by telling that the Fruity or Maaza is just a mango drink, a pleasant mango drink that's available to you all seasons across all parts of country. Now, Fruity or Maaza was not designated to bring in something like a Red Bull, something like a super energy charger drink kind of a thing. It's a very, very simple and a straightforward advertisement altogether. Of course, you might like to say that there are greater brand ambassadors involved with those advertisements, but nevertheless, the entire advertisement was not focused on the brand ambassadors. It was focused on the quality and nature of the product, the goodness of the project that could be delivered to the people at any given point of time. So that's where you would see that they were able to stick along to the market for a longer time period. Now, as you start going through this packaged beverages, or then you start getting into any other kind of products like a Sunsilk or a Godrej, or you talk about a Fortune refined oil or any other kind of advertisements that have been regularly popping up on your TV screens, the ability to sustain has been primarily because they have been designed in such a manner to attract the population and stay in the minds of the consumer. Now, many a times people ask me this question that whenever we talk about the most important person, what about the others? Would they not be interested? Absolutely, yes, they would also be interested, but then the action in terms of sales towards the product happens only by the person who is seriously important, who is seriously concerned about the product. Now, for example, let us say that we look into a very, very generic product like that of a Surf Excel. Now, Surf Excel is one that I cannot say that only women are involved in using. Even men use Surf Excel in their washing machines to, clean their clothes. That's perfectly okay because that's a washing detergent soap that's available for every segment, for every class. So you would not be able to make this action very clearly saying that only women buy detergent soaps, men also will purchase at that point of time. But what is very important here is that whether you are targeting the women or the men or the teenagers, the message has to go so well clear that it is able to address the problem and bring out a clear-cut solution. Now, when you look into Surf Excel's advertisement, the way the entire advertisement is designed is all about removing the dirt out of the cloth and making it look like new. That's exactly what is needed. Now, we do not have to camouflage too many things in the advertisement and trying to make it complicated. What is needed is that drive the message straight into the minds of the consumer, trying to tell them why it is important, what do we exactly need, what is the beneficial part of using that particular product. Then automatically you will see that yes, there has been some growth, there has been some beneficiary activity all about. So designing is very, very important because it sends out some important message to the people out there. Followed by which we would also like to talk about selecting the right media. There are many different options when you go in terms of selecting the right kind of media. But then the one or the more medium that people would definitely like to look in today is a social media altogether. Gone are the days where people spend hours together sitting like a family and watching the television, but these days everybody is glued to their mobile sets. So most of the time people spend their, the time and the factors in terms of looking into Instagram, or it might be YouTube, or it might be Facebook, or any other social media website, which keeps again and again reinstating the value of the product. So when you're going to select the right kind of media, one has to understand the number of times, the occurrence, and the instances at which that would go and reflect in the minds of the consumer. So you need to make that media channel very, very attractive to the consumer. You cannot take a media channel where you are just throwing the advertisement again and again and ensuring that it's going to hit to the eyes of the consumer. What is very important is that you make the advertisement crisp, you make the advertisement shorter, but you make it effective so that whenever it pops up into the screens of the consumer, they are able to get that attention, they are able to grab it out, and they are able to say that this is exactly what we were looking for. So you need to be short, you need to be precise, and you need to place your advertisement in such a manner that it is able to generate a lot of interest in the minds of the consumer. Now, the scheduling the advertisement, that is the buyer turnover, the purchase frequency, and the forgetting rate. Now, these are certain things where I would like to bring in a foolproof formula altogether. The first thing let's try to understand here is the buyer turnover. How often new buyers enter into the market? Now, many a time you might have asked this question, is there a time where people will forget Dettol and people will buy new products in place of Dettol, or in place of Vicks, or in place of Hammam or Lifebuoy soap? The answer is yes. Why? Because people always look for new products with better options, with better deals, but unlikely if you are not able to replace the older products, people will stick back with the old ones. So the buyer options are always ready. The new buyers are always flooded in the market looking out for better options, better kind of products with a good pricing, of course, in mind. So now what happens here is that most of the time, unless and until you refresh your product line and you're going to bring something meaningful, something attractive that's going to set into my mind, I'm not going to be that new buyer for you. I would rather like to stick to my old choices. So the buyer turnover typically depends upon the kind of advertisement when you unleash yourself with the new varieties of product, trying to tell them that yes, these kind of products are available, these products are very good in nature, and the kind of attraction and attention that you keep on creating in the minds of the consumer. So once you are able to build it and take it forward, then automatically people will be interested with you. Purchase frequency, how often a purchase, a product is being purchased in the market, that depends upon the usage of the product. Now, I would not say this good enough for, a Dawat basmati rice. Why? Because people are not going to buy basmati rice every day. People are not going to buy a rinse soap every day or a Vim bar every day. But definitely, if it's going to be a product where the lifetime usage is shorter and then people have to make a buy, definitely there would be a frequency on the higher level. Now let's take on the food product itself, like Maggi or an Amul butter, or when we're talking about Pepsi, yes, the frequency of purchase is on the higher side because people consume it on a daily basis, so there is going to be a continuous buying frequency in that area. Now, what is the forgetting rate? How quickly buyers forget the product without exposure to advertising? Now, that is also important. Many times people buy the product, they feel it good, okay, then another product comes into the picture, they switch over, they forget the older product. The reason being is that you are not constantly reminding the consumer about your own product. The day when you release the customer out of their minds about your product, you have lost the customer. So it is very important for you to understand that advertising is not just a ladder to increase your sales. It is not a bridge that is going to connect you to your sales directly, but it is that kind of connection that is going to establish your customers with your product for a longer time period, unless and until you stop advertising at some point of time. So it is mandatory for every company in this world to keep advertising, to keep their products as a center point, as a focus, and trying to ensure that the products stick to the minds of the consumer at any given point of time. So the more and more you start advertising, the more and more you start making a brand recall into the minds of the consumer, you are making a greater effort. People are able to understand you and they are ready to move with you. Now, the conclusion part. So definitely the three important parts that we are going to look into it, which is going to have a greater effect, is about your demographics and data, design and delivery. So how is your data about the product? How have you designed the advertisement? How are you delivering the advertisement? And what are all the factors that are going to keep our minds busy in terms of this particular advertisement? So even with the advent of social media, there are lots of potentials for pitfall. There are a lot of ideas where an advertisement can go down, can completely be considered to be a negative, but you have an opportunity to relive that, because if you design your advertisement properly and if you build with proper data, you give the proper design to it, you deliver it in the right way at the right sense, then automatically you can see that your advertising can be the best in the coming years. With that, I come to the end of today's session. I hope and believe that all the facts and figures that we have spoken about in this session would be of a great benefit to you, both in terms of theory as well as in the practical walk of life. In the upcoming session, we would be talking about on the budget part and how advertising budget needs to be looked into in depth. Until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.